Is your business pootling along instead of firing on all cylinders? Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and frustrated? Do your dreams of financial freedom feel a long way off? Then this is the podcast for you. Little Voice, Big Business, with your host, Nadia Finer.
Hi there, Nadia here. Welcome to Little Voice, Big Business. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries, why they're important, and what can happen when we don't have any. First of all, what do boundaries mean? What are they? Well, in the world of business and potentially elsewhere in our personal lives, I'm not talking about the kind of boundaries they have in, say, 50 Shades of Grey. It does always remind me of that, like some kind of safe word or something, but it's not like that. The boundaries I'm thinking of are the limits and structures we put into place around us when we're running our business. Not just to keep us sane, but to keep us safe and also protect us from being taken advantage of, and to also enable us to do business more effectively and make more money, which is ultimately the name of the game. So why is it hard to set boundaries in the first place? It sounds fairly simple, really, doesn't it? But actually, setting these kinds of boundaries is tricky for some of us more than others. It's something I often struggle with because I want to please people. I want to do a good job. I want people to be happy. And because of that, it makes it tricky to put boundaries in place that stop me from over-delivering or getting involved in things that I shouldn't be getting involved in. The kind of things I'm talking about are perhaps setting time limits, being very clear about your pricing, having clear working hours, times when you are not going to answer calls or messages, being clear about the kind of work you're prepared to deliver and the kind of work that you're not prepared to get involved in. These are all boundaries that you can put in place clearly and lay them out for your clients so that they understand how you're going to work. The reason we're talking about boundaries today is because I see it time and time again with my clients where a lack of boundaries ends up in a snowballing situation / disaster, which could easily have been prevented. I'm not going to preach to you and pretend that I'm perfect in this area. I've had a number of experiences myself which I've learnt from the hard way. And rather than you getting in a massive pickle like me, I think it would be good for me to share my story with you so that you don't make the same mistake. So...
Uh-oh.
Oh God, I said so. I'm always saying so, and my editor goes crazy. So she has to edit out about 9,000. So, okay. The story starts a few years ago when I was first starting out my coaching practice. I was keen to grow my client base, and I was doing okay-ish. There were things I could have done better, but we'll talk about those another day. I had a client who I'm not going to name, but we'll call her, what should we call her? We'll call her Dorothy.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Okay, so Dorothy and I had been working together for a while, and it was going okay. We had had a few sessions, and I was helping her to create a plan to streamline some of her processes. We were also talking about her website and the way that it could work harder for her, and some kind of systems that we could put in place that would help her to work less and make more money. Sounds fair enough. We even together wrote a brief for a web designer who was going to go and make some changes to her website. However, when it came to actually going off and finding a web designer. There was an issue of budget. Okay, Dorothy didn't want to spend the kind of money that was required to get the website done properly.
Oh my!
At this point, the first set of alarm bells should have been ringing. Okay, alarm bells. So she wanted all kinds of changes but couldn't afford them. Now, in hindsight, what I should have done at this point was walk away, potentially, or provide her with some recommendations, maybe, for web designers who I knew and suggest that she get in touch. And that was it. But no, did I do that? No, I did not. Foolish mistake. I offered to help. So I have got some experience of building basic websites. I know what to do. I've worked with people who've built websites for me and my clients. Now, this is not my idea of fun, particularly, and it certainly strays beyond my job description. However, I decided that because I wanted to help Dorothy, I would blur these boundaries and get involved. So I said, well, hang on a minute, I don't want our work together to be wasted. I will sort this out for you. I'll find a web designer and I'll help manage the project. Okay, you can see that this is like a car crash waiting to happen looking at it. But anyway, now I cracked on, got the designer involved. We'd done a quote for the work, fixed price, mistake number 2, and off we went. However, it soon became clear that this website was not built in the normal way, although it was built on WordPress. It was not built with a theme. It had been coded from scratch by someone who seemingly had like one arm tied behind their back or something. It was a huge mess, and it wasn't something that could easily be altered. So we decided we would build it from scratch, paste in the text, add in a normal kind of theme, and it would all be more straightforward. However, the work went on and on and on. Soon enough, my time as a project manager had been completely eaten into. Again, instead of going back and saying, I can't carry on with this, you need to either work directly with the designer or, we need to review the situation, I didn't want to let Dorothy down. So off I toddled, carried on, working. Meanwhile, was losing my client base because I was so focused on this one project, which I was essentially running for free. More alarm bells, please. Like, this is just one mistake on top of another. But, I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to walk away from the project. I wanted to see the job through. So it continued week after week. I'm working for free. Then the money runs out. The web designer wants more money because obviously she's now not being paid and the job was a lot more complex than had originally been anticipated. So, what do I do? This makes me slightly hysterical to think about it. What an idiot. I actually paid her from the money I'd been paid so she can continue working. So not only is my money running out, I'm now giving it away to the designer because I don't want to let the designer down because I know she needs the money. I don't want to let the client down. You can see where this is going. Eventually the money runs out and I'm actually paying the designer out of my own money, not the money I've been paid for the project, but more money, my own money. I am now in negative numbers. And still the project goes on. This project is like the bane of my life. It's causing me stress. The client is still moaning, seemingly never happy despite all this additional effort that's going on. The boundaries are so far gone. They're in another country, pretty much. And I'm still working at a loss now, not just for free, but at a loss. Okay, finally it has to end and the website's done. Now, there's a point at which the files need to be moved across to the existing domain because they've been built kind of in a draft form. So I'm on holiday. At this point, I've said, I can't. Oh no, I did put some boundaries in place, tiny little ones, the kind you can just step over. I said, well, actually, can't really continue working on this now. For the move across and the installation, you can manage that directly. The client speaks directly to my designer. And sure enough, somewhere along the lines of that process, while I'm on holiday, in a field in Kent, oh my God, I could cry just telling you this. The files, so the entire website that we've spent months building, gets deleted.
Oh my God! No way!
Deleted. Can you imagine? I have the client on the phone in tears, by which point I almost don't care. I'm just like, what do you want from me? There's nothing else I can do. I've tried my best to please you, and nothing is good enough. The files are deleted. I speak to the hosting company, so now this is like ruining my holiday. The client hates me, seemingly. Okay, so you're thinking, can this get any worse? Well, eventually the site gets put up and the client's still not happy, right? So what do? I'm getting aggressive emails from Dorothy at this point, and I'm thinking, do you know what? I just need to move on. I want to get back to doing what I do. I want to get back to coaching. I'm not a project manager. I'm not a web designer. How the hell did I end up doing this? She's complaining, telling me I've ruined her life and her business, which, quite frankly, didn't seem to be the case. So I gave her her money back. Right? By this point, I am so far out of pocket, it's not even funny. I've given this woman her money back. She has a website. Okay, she says she doesn't like it and that I've ruined her life. But, I've given her her money back so she can go off and repeat the whole awful experience with somebody else. But at least I won't need to deal with it. You can see from my lovely little story here that a lack of boundaries can escalate. Not only did I have a hellish few months, I ended up doing work that is not my area of expertise. So far removed from my zone of genius, it's not even funny. I ended up working for free, paying someone else out of my own money, and then giving the client her money back. So there were a huge number of mistakes that I made in this situation. And they all stem back to the fact that I had no boundaries. I had no backbone, actually. And I was just desperate to do the right thing for my client. I was desperate to please her. I wanted her to like me. And that was a big mistake. My clients don't need to like me. They need to respect me. And as long as I'm doing a good job for them, whether or not they want to hang out with me, doesn't really matter. Now, I do still struggle with this because I do want people to like me. I can't help it. Life's much more fun when the people you're with think you're, someone cool that they'd like to go for a drink with. However, sometimes it's not always possible. The moral of the story is get a backbone.
But I could show my prowess, be a lion, not a mouse, if I only had the nerve.
And get some boundaries. Now, what can we do? How do we put boundaries in place? What would I have done differently? Looking back on that situation, I think the first thing I should have done is been very clear about the kind of work that I do and the kind of work that I don't do. When someone says, oh, please help me design this. Please help me build my website. Please help me knit this sweater. No, I'm not going to. It's not what I do. I'm happy to refer you to people. And again, boundaries. I should explain that I accept no responsibility for what happens when you work with that person. Because, again, you can get sucked into situations where you become responsible for something that you have no control over. terms and conditions when you work with someone, make it really clear how it's all going to pan out. Make it clear what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. In your pricing, don't give a fixed price if there's potential for the project to go on and on. Make it clear the number of changes or amends they get, and after a certain point, how much your time will be charged at. These are all things that I now know and I now implement. However, at that point, it was early on. I was maybe feeling a little bit insecure. I wanted people to rate what I was doing and refer me, recommend me. But all that happened was that I ended up busting my balls for somebody who was never going to be happy or appreciate the work that I did. And that's because, I'm not the best project manager or the best web designer in the world, really. And actually, I was doing them a disservice by agreeing to get involved. Aside from my own painful story, these boundaries come into play on a regular basis. And it can be anything from, when I get messages from people, should I reply to those messages when I'm making dinner or watching my favourite TV programme, or when I'm still in my pyjamas and it's actually 7 a.m. Well, the temptation is definitely there to just ping a quick response, but then they reply back and suddenly you're having a big discussion and you're not ready to, you're not at work. You're in your leisure time, and it's not appropriate. People need to know that they can contact you at certain points. Similarly, if you charge by the hour for your work, I sometimes do this too, and I really need to stop, is going, oh, it's fine, let's just keep chatting. And immediately you've undermined the value that you're giving. Immediately you've undermined your whole pricing structure by chatting for an extra 20 minutes. It is being nice and it's generous, but at the same time, you're actually not helping your business at all. So I challenge you to think over the next few minutes or hours about boundaries. What can you put in place within your own business that makes working easier? That means you're less likely to be taken advantage of, and that means that your clients are going to respect you ultimately, and also that you don't end up working for months and paying somebody for the privilege of allowing you to work on something that you're not enjoying and that's causing you a lot of stress. Okay. I hope you can learn from my story. Don't judge me. It was a long time ago and I definitely wouldn't do it now. So I feel like sharing that means that you guys don't have to go through this, hopefully. Although it's embarrassing, I think sharing this story with you hopefully means that you won't go through the same thing and you'll be stronger than I was at that point. Anyway, thanks for listening to Little Voice Big Business, and let's all pledge to implement some brilliant boundaries in our business. Bye for now.
Little Voice Big Business.